Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Indonesia, France, and now Nepal. Something unprecedented has happened in this year which has never occurred before, where the governments of over 5 nations have been toppled over by the people of their own state through insurgencies, protests, riots, for the cause of elimination of poverty, corruption, inequality, and for combating rising costs of living. And somehow expect the government forming afterwards to eliminate poverty, corruption overnight and bringing drastic change in course of their economy in a short term. That's not going to happen. In fact, these are some misinformation or propaganda spread across South Asian nations, where they make the youth of the nation to believe that the change that they want to bring is in their own hands by overthrowing the government. I'll give you a classical example of what would happen if you overthrow a government in your nation. Let's take the case study of Bangladesh. We all know what happened to Sheikh Hasina's governments being overthrown by a youth-led movement in Bangladesh, and how a man named Mohammed Yunus got himself appointed as I don't know what position he still holds because he has yet to conduct any general elections for his nation. What I do know is that he has yet to implement any policy changes which he has promised before or during the protest. The youth of the nation or the society neither saw any drastic changes in the corruption nor any upliftment of any sorts in the society. So what we got here is a puppet regime where the puppet is being installed by foreign entities by backing them with financial and muscle support, and making him hold position without any authorization or without any election. And somehow the people of the nation is made to believe that there would be a change in their society. There is no economic improvement there. There's no drastic elimination of corruption or poverty there. There's just a government which is now fractured, destabilized, and a nation which bends their spine to the foreign entities for their support. And this man, Mohammed Yunus, somehow found courage in himself to antagonize a country which has liberated its own country. So all we got is a destabilized form of country which is unable to uplift its own people, nor able to comply with its historical ties with the nations which has very much helped them with everything. And now we will come to the part of Nepal. What has happened there is legitimate. The anger built inside the people is legitimate, and we have to give credit for them. There has been corruption for a decade, or there has been an employment or a barricade which has restricted the youth of the nation from contesting elections or from getting entered into political landscape which has been dominated by the old age people. So we have to give credit for them. I'm not discrediting their anger. What I would like to discredit is their form of protest and how they got organized themselves into a particular sector or a particular age sector of a society, that is people below 28 years of old. We call them Gen Z. And how they organized a protest, organized many protests without any legitimate leader who would be taking in charge once the protest is settled down. They are an unorganized set of people who were damaging public property, who were setting fire to the parliament and all the buildings, based on information provided by NGOs, organizations whose ownership is owned by foreign entities and whose profit has increased some tenfold in these protests. So it's not the people who do the protests that get the benefit out of overthrowing the country. What they get is just a satisfaction of getting that freedom to somehow get that anger out that has been built inside for a decade or so. So they essentially only benefit what the countries which has been supporting these protests from outside is going to. These organizations are not state-run. They classify themselves as non-profit organization for a particular cause, such as elimination of poverty. And I don't know how an organization or NGO, which is classified as elimination of poverty, is also supplying arms and ammunitions for the youth. I don't know how is that considered elimination of poverty. So there is these entities which are not solely for the benefit of the people. They come here, they do what they want, and they take in the profit outside else. And by destabilizing a nation, they get a lot of profit over there. They get to say what supply chain demand would be there. They get to say which regime is going to be formed afterwards. I mean, let's not forget how they got their prime minister appointed. In the history of mankind, we got a prime minister appointed through an app, Discord. Barely 5,000 people voted, and there was an option which classified a person as random Nepali. So if that option had been opted by a lot of people, probably a random Nepali would be running as the prime minister of that nation right now. The youth of the nation have fun while destroying the public property or by going against, waging war against the nation, but they do not respect their own national stability when it comes to the structural integrity of the administration. They just want to have fun. Heroic day indeed would be an heroic day. At what cost? You would be sacrificing your nation for a heroic day which is going to be forgotten in some 2 or 3 years. So I would like to thank the research and analysis bureau of our nation and intelligence bureaus for suppressing the propaganda or the misinformation that has been provided. And I would also like to advise the youth of our nation, particularly people of my age, below 28 of years old, to have the ability to analyze the data and to know what to believe in and what not to believe in. I'm not saying there hasn't been attempts on India as well. There has been multiple attempts on us as well, Manipur and vote manipulation things. So it is indeed. I did find it, and I did find it good that the people of our country is not that easily fooled, and I would like it to stay that way. And to come into the geopolitical game of what happens if you destabilize a nation, I just want to shed some light upon the fact that the most of the countries which have been destabilized are mostly neighbored to India. And why is that? Because we had seen what happened when India is asked to bend under pressure. We didn't bend. We didn't bend to the West. We didn't bend to their tariffs. We didn't bend to anybody. And we had a spine to stand up and say that that is not in our national interest to execute. We refused to stand as a pawn for some other nation and to execute their own policies. We put our national interest above them, and we simply refused to be a pawn for them. And that is why now the West is refusing to consider India as a trustworthy ally for their policy to counter China, and they would like to have a lot of other states in Asian countries which are not India to be used as a pawn, to be used as a state to counter China and to balance India. So they do get a lot of benefit out of destabilizing a nation. If they wanted, they would cut the supply chains of many. As we all seeing how the tariffs works now in the US, what would happen if India's supply chains have been cut in neighbored countries as well? They do not want India's progression to reach a limit where we would be a separate pole in the geopolitical power game. They just want India, as it is a peaceful nation, to be joining either sides of the geopolitical power and refusing for a multipolar world. So what they had been doing, purchasing Iran's ports and all the things, is that essentially to cut India out of the major trio or major power game and put India into a position where it would be bent down for the purpose of their own interest. So since we are not obliging for them, we have been perceived as a target right now for most of the nations. And it is important for youth of the nation to know that in heart that whatever visions they are pursuing outside the country, they are never safe outside the country. They are always at the mercy of the foreign policy of their nation. And we as a nation never been prone to reciprocate the treatment that has been put in the foreign nations. We are still a defensive, we are taking a defensive approach. So if a nation bans if a nation bans Indian entries to them, we are not most likely to do the same, but it would somehow impact the diaspora that has been present outside India. So it is always safe for all of the people to be inside India and to contribute for the welfare of our own nation. Now that we have seen why and how nations worldwide are afraid of our growth.